Oh, I guess they're going to get right to it. Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the July 14th edition of Rhetorically Speaking. Props to the people who are watching on Facebook Live. Shouts to those who are watching on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button at Quadify LLC. And props to the stragglers who just happen to be tuned in on IG. I appreciate y'all, right? I ain't gonna act like I don't, but I wish y'all could follow directions and take it over to the into the YouTubes, right? Because at some point I'm gonna monetize. I can't tell you when, but I think it's coming soon. I think before like the year 2020, then we got 2040. So what's that, 20 years? Yeah, I think that'll be the time when I when I eventually monetize off this thing. Nah, that's not the goal. The goal is just to be able to have a platform to be able to talk my ish, right? And be able to just engage with people because that's what I enjoy doing. Today is one of those days where I really don't even feel like talking about the same topics over and over and over and over again. Yes, I could talk about y'all man Trump, talking about how the fact that we're doing more testing here in America is the reason why we have more cases. Again, I guess he thinks that we were born last night. Because unfortunately, some people were. They might as well have been born last night because they actually believe in just the logic that he offers. Not to saying that he's wrong, right? I can't give you the statistics with regards to testing comparatively speaking to other countries, but I can say that's not the only reason why. We look no further again than the two states what I think are always as backwards. That would be Florida and that would be Texas, right? We could see the surges that are taking place. Maybe people wouldn't get tested if they weren't out here wilding like they were in South Philly here, where they was having a party, they was turning up with the cops and women were twerking on the cop. Again, I talked about it yesterday, man. It's hard for me to have that Ivan Drago perspective where if he dies, he dies. But I feel like if you going out and being around 500 people, even though I understand reasoning as to why, you're still making a foolish, inconsiderate decision. But like I said, I'm not talking about that. I got one story that I wanted to talk about. And again, that was the picture of the gentleman that you saw on my screen. I'm going to put it right back up there for you. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a brother named Zachary Lewis. Zachary Lewis is a disabled person, physically disabled person that resides here in Philadelphia. And so I happened to come across this story on one of the local news websites, and I started reading it. And I said, exactly. And the reason why I was saying exactly is because it was a scathing article and it was scathing comments from Zachary about the business owners in the city of Philadelphia, about the city of Philadelphia officials. And then I had to take it a step further with regards to America and say how America hates disabled persons. Now, in the midst of this quarantine, and you've probably seen it, businesses are excited to open back up. Why? Because it's survival, right? They have to survive. And so, yes, they might not be able to have indoor seating. So we see a lot of businesses having outdoor seating. If I go to the end of my block, I have Casa Brazil. I have, I forgot the name of the bar, Bamboo, at the end of my block. And they're packed. And what I noticed was that the seating extended out to the curb. But I didn't take into consideration how inconsiderate it is for individuals who are disabled persons. I think about how and again, it's selfish of me to think about it in terms of, just individuals just trying to walk by. Everybody's not walking by, right? Some people have difficulty walking by. Some people might be in a wheelchair, like the good brother Zachary Lewis. And so here they are, as Zachary was, trying to go down the street in Center City, Philadelphia, and he finds himself in front of a restaurant that is offering outdoor seating. What is he to do? What are physically disabled persons to do? Again, this goes into the idea of how we don't take into consideration everybody when we start making these decisions. Again, yes, we understand the viability of businesses. But what about everybody else? What about those who can't walk in the street or have difficulty getting in the street to get around? Again, it's inconsiderate. And so what Zachary did, him and his friend, they start pushing shit out the way. They start pushing by. Listen, we moving these chairs, we moving these tables. We're getting through. Folk from the restaurant started moving the chairs out the way so he can get by. And they were very apologetic. But then as soon as he got by, they put it right back out. And so it had me sitting and thinking about the privilege and the space that so many of us operate from. I have this conversation all the time when we talk about mental health, right? How, yes, we're having a conversation on mental health and it's all well and good, but we really not having a conversation on mental health and what that looks like and how that impacts all of the various areas. We're talking about the criminal justice system, right? We're talking about employment. We're talking about all the areas that haven't caught up and haven't truly engaged in this conversation. And the same is true for physically disabled persons. And so when I sit and I think about just the accessibility piece and how it's just neglectful, just the exclusion of individuals, disabled persons, when it comes to these things. And again, I'm acknowledging my own privilege in the midst of that. But again, they're left out of the conversations on policies and procedures and how things are going to operate. The city is mulling over just shutting down streets in general, blocking off streets. That's okay for me. I might have to get a little bit more exercise. But what about others? What about others who aren't capable of taking the scenic route around because we want to make sure businesses are flourishing out here? Here in the city of Philadelphia alone, there were 51 violations in June with regards to the proximity from the curve that restaurants were supposed to be. 51. And think about it. That's a low number probably, right? Because just like we say about Christian Cooper, it might not be apples to apples, but everybody don't feel like making a call and saying, listen, they're not adhering to the rules. Who even knew? Before reading this article, again, it was a luxury that I have of just being able to go past it without the consideration of our physically disabled brethren. And so it was frustrating to me in seeing that. Listen, I didn't have much more, right? I didn't even have much more to talk about. So I'm open to y'all. What y'all talking about? I just had to get that off my chest. So what y'all talking about out here? Listen, if y'all ain't talking about nothing, I have no problem in taking it down. No problem. I mean, Malik Jackson, oh boy. I'm going to look it up because I wasn't going to talk about it. Again, I didn't really want to talk about much tonight. Malik Jackson is a defensive tackle who plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. right? Defensive end, defensive tackle. And surprisingly, it's not coming up. While I'm looking that up, I see Chris says code compliance is asleep at the wheel. Again, is it really code compliance? Or is this a problem with individuals, owners of restaurants, not adhering to what the rules are? I'm sure they got a briefing on it. So again, this shouldn't be something that has to be reinforced. This should be something that we should be mindful of. Something that if we care about humanity, if we care about our fellow person, I don't know. But with Malik Jackson, there's outrage because he sticks up for Deshaun Jackson and praises the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. And the reason why I call him the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, because that's how I hear everybody call him. Just like Elijah Muhammad. I always say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I don't necessarily subscribe to everything that the NOI believes in. There are some things about blackness and self-determination and community determination that I wholeheartedly agree with. But apparently, you can't say anything. You can't say anything. And when I look at Malik Jackson and his comments, because I really could care less about what his comments were. Fact, just in case y'all don't know, he said the Honorable Farrakhan is nothing like that vile scum Hitler. He went on to downplay the anti-Semitic message Deshaun posted. Right? He says he speaks truth and believes in protection of self, and that scares your racist ass. Second, DJ did not quote anyone. He took a picture of a book that was to invoke thought and conversation. Again, we can agree that I think that's what Deshaun was trying to do. He was foolhardy to not think about the consequences. I don't think he truly understood what it is that he was posting. He's no different than somebody who just shares an article. He shared a quote. I wonder if he even read the book that it came from. It was a book without a barcode. So it might be kind of seedy anyway. I call Malik Jackson a big dummy today. Because, listen, you saw what the backlash was for Deshaun Jackson. You see how he had to apologize several times. You had to see how now he has to take trips to Auschwitz with a survivor of a concentration camp. He's going to take up Julian Edelman on his offer to go to the Jewish Museum. Even though Julian Edelman had no desire to go to the Black History Museum prior to. But I guess he figured it was like a quid pro quo. If I ask him to do this, then he's going to have to ask me to do something. That's just how it goes. But it's dumb in the sense that, listen, now you're putting a spotlight on you. I don't even care about the team. I'm not worried about the Eagles. That's what it is. You're putting a spotlight on you and your career and you moving forward. There's going to be a day where your talent doesn't necessarily match up to the compensation. And this is just fuel to the fire for somebody not to sign you. Especially if we're having this conversation about Jewish leadership and ownership within the NFL. Even if I understand the points that you're making, sometimes you got to bite the bullet like Bruce Leroy. And again, some of us aren't advanced thinkers. We're not critical thinkers. We're not thinking about, if I post this response, what is it going to be? Some of us lack that level of self-awareness. And so with Malik Jackson, he lacks that level of self-awareness. I don't know what else is going on out here. It's a slow news day, man. And I ain't got the alacrity. I'm trying to see what CNN talking about. Free my man Fauci. I think Trump is doing everything in his power to now try to find his way back after disassociating himself from Dr. Fauci. And why is that? Because how do you look? Again, image is everything. He's not really worried about having a relationship, but he's worried about the perception of how he'll look if he completely denounces the country's lead infectious specialists. But I think the damage has been done. We see what's taking place. Here in Philadelphia, they've banned large gatherings. The Broad Street Run, which I was planning to run in October, they just said, nah, we're not running. We're not going to give you your $50 back. But what we are going to do is we're going to make it a virtual race so you can run outside. We're going to send you a medal. We're going to send you, give my money. I want my money. The city of Philadelphia has banned large gatherings until February of 2021, except if it takes place on private property, and also exempt is stadiums, our stadiums. So this means for people who thought the Eagles weren't going to potentially, if they have a season, that they weren't going to have fans in attendance. Again, this is strategic. This is all strategic. This isn't about the welfare of the community, of the city's residents. Again, everything boils down to the bottom dollar. Even having kids come back into the classroom. We're canceling all of these events, but yet you're saying kids are going back into the classroom. I got a letter from my daughter's private school. I wish it was public school. Private school. And they said, listen, we have in class, we have the ability with small classrooms to space it out. I'm like, no way in hell. It's no way in hell that I want my daughter going back there. Especially if Corona continues to run rampant through communities. But what this does do is this sparks some conversations. First, between co-parents. I have a co-parent and we seem to not butt heads much. You know what I'm saying? So I think we could come to a decision, a joint decision. But there are some who can't and who won't. They'll be unable. What about the parents who are going to have to go back to work? Are they going to risk it all? Because listen, think about it. There's some of them parents out there who send their kids to school when they coughing up a lung. They got snot boogers, little Timmy. Snot all up on his little mustache. I don't know why little Timmy got a mustache, but he got it. Little Sabrina. Going there just coughing and hacking, rubbing her eyes with the pink eye. You think they not going to send the kid that got COVID? Because first, they probably don't know if they got COVID. Because it's not like these schools are doing testing like the NBA. It's not like the NBA going to donate money for daily testing or for weekly testing in the school. Nah, that's not happening. So think about it. Think about the negligence. Because we want to think that parents have the best interest of their child at heart. And I think most of them do. But sometimes it gets covered by some bullshit, right? And bullshit, I mean like work. So then what? What happens? I think we see private schools like my daughter's private school. They're going to recognize how much money they're going to potentially be out of. Because why wouldn't I send my daughter to Connections Academy, an online school, if she's going to be home and I got to do all the teaching anyway? I don't know. I don't know how this is going to work out. Again, but I know time is coming. Let me get to the comments. Sam says, it frustrates me that black have to learn about Jewish experience, but no one wants to learn or be empathetic with regards to our 400-year history of oppression. It is extremely frustrating. No, I completely agree. And And again, I was listening to Sports Talk Radio over the weekend, and they were killing Malcolm Jenkins for saying, listen, they got their issues they got to worry about. We got our own issues we got to worry about. And that's just how it is. That's where we are right now. And in the host that I was listening to, and it was multiple ones talking about, he screams about equality and all of this, but that's not what he's promoting. He's promoting individual. No, the issue is we need to focus on a collective and what our goals are as a community going forward. Because again, we've had these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of oppression. No, the black and Jewish experience is not the same. It's not the same. Because when we talk about black folk, we're not only talking about black folk here in America, we're talking about the colonized black folk over in Africa and our Latinx folk, Afro-Latina. See, I tried to roll the Latina. You get what I'm saying. And again, I'm not even worried about that because that's not my concern. As a human being, yes, I care about what you go through. But when I'm talking about my resources, financial, my intellectual resources, they have to go to what's happening with people that look like me. It's tribalism, right? It's just a reality. Tim Young says, crazy that DJ has to jump through hoops to clear his name, but Riley Cooper skated off clean after his comment. Malik Jackson's timing was terrible, but I agree with his comments. Yeah, I agree with his comments too. Listen, I'm not the hugest fan of Farrakhan, but I understand some of the basic principles that I do agree with. Right? When we talk about, again, that self-determination in all areas and community determination, I definitely agree with that. And again, the Eagles set a bad precedent with the Riley Cooper situation. Again, if they would have cut Deshaun, I would have said, listen, I get it. I understand why. But I'm not going to sit here and call for it. Right? Because it's that idea of black protectionism. Like, we've seen what happened to black folk forever. And so, no, I'm never going to call for somebody to go to jail unless it's Rob or unless it's Bill. Right? They need to be locked under the jail. But outside of that, nah. Nah, not at all. Let's see, what else we talking about here? Yeah, it's one of them days. I'm about 24 minutes in. I think I done went 14 minutes than I was anticipating. So, yeah, man, we're going to call it. But I'll catch up with y'all tomorrow. Hopefully something else is going on. Peace.